And we're back. Two Addicts and a Moron, episode 5.
5.
Season 2.
Whoa, that's crazy.
I'm like, dude, I fucked it up the last one. I didn't know which one we were on.
Well,
we're doing so many of these.
Luckily, I keep trying.
Yeah. Well, look, thank God somebody is. Yeah, because I'm running out of fingers and toes here, man. It's going to be pretty quick.
I hear you. Episode 17 overall.
In Spanish?
Yes,
What is it, JV?
Fuck.
JV,
JV. 17. 17.
Damn, dude,
17.
that was fast.
Yeah, that was super fast.
Yes, he said.
All right. Well, we gone back to looking a little bit different. You know, we can't get enough of changing shit around in here, and we brought our third guest.
Hell yeah.
Sean Fairchild, everybody.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Excited to be here.
Good, dude. Good. Well, it's we're gonna take you on a little bit of a ride today. You said you've seen it a little bit, but we're honored to have you. Thank you for coming in and doing what you're going to be doing in here. It's really going to go a long way and help a lot of people.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
So your introduction is going to be last, but I go first because I'm the moron. Joey the moron right here.
That you are.
Off to the left.
Jay Klein.
Mike Stuboy, Addict, Meth, GHB.
Sean Fairchild.
All right. Well, we always have a tradition. We're not going to break it today, whether it's 17 or not. But Jay Klein, you want to go ahead and kick that off for us, brother?
Yeah. So what we do before each, I don't know if you saw in the previous episodes, we get present, we get centered, and we just think about that that's still out there suffering. So let us bow our heads, close our eyes, take a moment to get centered, take a moment to just think about how fortunate and grateful we are to be here sober. Let us think about the addict that's still out there suffering, the friends and family members that are struggling and suffering with them, and the addict that unfortunately could not be here with us today. Let us take a moment of silence. Thank you.
All right. Well, since we brought in a guest, new perspective is always welcome. And your story is pretty unique. It's going to be a little bit different than I think even our previous two, mainly because of your age. So I want to start with that. So Sean Fairchild, how old are you, my man?
I am 20 years old.
Whoo! And you are in active recovery right now.
Yes.
How long has that been?
Just coming up on 16 months.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
That's amazing,
Yeah,
bro.
that's amazing. And equally amazing based on your age. And when we first heard that you were coming in and the age that you were, it was like, how long were you in addiction?
From the time that I think the first time I ever smoked weed, I was 12 or 13.
Okay.
I think from that point, that was kind of, some people it kind of develops later on. For me, it was immediate. I was definitely an addict from the first time that I smoked. I took my first ecstasy pill when I was 14, maybe. And then it just kind of progressed until I got sober at 19.
Okay.
That's crazy, right?
That's nuts,
That's insane.
dude. That's like most of your life.
Now, when I was 18, that's when I really started my addiction. And I got court ordered to go to AA. And when I went to AA in my hometown, there was no other kids there.
Mm-hmm.
There were not kids, excuse me, but like there was no younger people my age.
Right.
It was a lot of older guys and older women and, or middle-aged people. And it's like, what do you do? Like, for one, I thought using at that age, I thought it was cool, for one. And then what am I supposed to do with all my friends? Like, because they're not getting sober. They don't even know if they're addicts. I mean, some of them were, like, for sure.
Yeah.
But, like, they're not ready. They're not going to get sober yet. So, like, I don't know. I'm just happy that today it seems like it seems to be somewhat of a not. I don't want to say, I hate that word trend in recovery, but it seems like there are more young people getting active in recovery, getting sober. So
I think the maturity level, like to know that you're an addict at 19 and like I need to get sober is fucking like that blows my mind. Because I didn't want to admit I was an addict at 42. You know?
Yeah.
I don't have a fucking problem at all. You know, I couldn't imagine going back to when I was 19 when I was like just really drinking and like not drinking to get fucked up.
Yeah.
And like waking up and doing it again the next day. Like I wasn't an addict then, but I couldn't imagine sitting down and saying, you know what, I have a problem. I'm going to stop at 19. Like before I can even like, that's amazing.
Yeah, dude.
That's amazing.
I think there was a lot of factors that kind of went into it. One being the fact that like I had addicts in my family. My father was an addict. My brother's an addict. My other brother's an addict. So I kind of grew up watching what addiction will do to a family.
Yeah.
And so like I always told myself as a kid that like I would never be them. I remember telling my mom like I'll never be a drug addict like my father. I'll never go to jail like my brother. But I think after a while it kind of, I knew what it looked like. I knew after a certain point, like, okay, I definitely can't control this problem. I must be a drug addict.
Right.
And then after that, for the next, like I was maybe like 15 when I first realized like, okay, I'm a drug addict. It's pretty evident.
That's wild, dude.
Yeah.
Like 15 years old and you're already having that kind of recognition is that's even more mind blowing to me than the age that you are right now. You know, like my son is fucking 15 right now. Like it's nuts to me to think about that. And that's why your unique position in this was something that we really wanted to have on. So let's start in addiction. What was the poison, I guess you could say? What was it for you?
Anything that I could get my hands on, for sure. I think the only like 3 things I never touched were crack, heroin, and like PCP.
Okay.
But meth is definitely what got me. Kind of started. It started to go really downhill with coke, and then once I got on meth, it was pretty quick after that I needed to go get some help.
Yeah. And you at 15, did you recognize that help, or did that come a little bit later?
I spent a lot of time in institutions. Never treatment until I was 19.
Okay.
But I mean, I went to juvenile delinquency centers 7-8 times before I was 17. By the time I was 17, I went to like a 6-month like quasi-military program where I got my diploma after I got expelled from school for selling Adderall. And then I went to the Army as well stayed in there for a little over a year, got kicked out of there. Spent some time in Mississippi, sleeping on couches, sleeping in a truck, slept on the street a little bit. That was when I first got on meth. I ended up doing it with my brother. And I had spent all this time trying to avoid meth. And then once it happened, I came back. So I had taken a trip to Iowa with my brother. And we just got high the whole time. And when I came back to Mississippi, the friend that I had been staying with, we would sell drugs together or whatever. And he had a bunch of meth. And I just remember staring at the bag, and I knew that I was either going to steal it, I was going to buy it, or I was going to get him to let me do it. So I made a call to my mom, and she got me out to Houston. She had just moved to Houston. And I went out there and stayed sober for maybe like 4 days. And then I found an app where I could find anything that I wanted.
I probably use the same app.
Yeah. And I just continued to do it until things got bad enough. And I finally, when I went to go get sober, what had happened was, like, when I got out of the Army, I was like 190 pounds. And then when I went into treatment, I was 120. And that happened in like less than a year, maybe. And I remember, like, I finally, like, after all that time of me getting high, looked myself in the mirror, and I just remember looking at myself and feeling so defeated. And My nephew was supposed to come from Louisiana to see us. Like my mom had found, I was staying with my mom at the time. She had found some cocaine and some Adderall. And usually she would take it. But this time she woke me up and she just gave it back to me. And I was like, what is that about? And she was like, you're going to do it anyway. So here you go. Just don't be high when he gets here. And she left and she drove like 4 hours to Louisiana to go get him, 4 hours back. And I just remember sitting there for like the entire time, just trying to flush it. And I could not bring myself to do it. And I ended up doing it all. And I was messed up for the next day or so. He stayed for 3 days. So then I had 2 days. And it was the first 2 days that I had been sober in a good amount of time. And I was feeling all the things that I was trying to avoid feeling. And when my nephew left, my mom looks me in my eye and tells me that she wanted to get off, that she was so beaten down and tired of loving men and loving her children who were just going to use until they get. And I just remember like the earnestness with which she said it. And I was like, okay, I'll go to treatment. And we didn't have much money. My dad left me after he passed away. He left a bunch of comic books for me, and so me and my mom went through them and cleaned them and got them all together, sold them and managed to get up a little bit of money. And I was scholarshiped into treatment, and here I am.
Wow, brother. I think so. A common thing that these guys talked about, and I'm curious to see you being at such a younger age, is they talk about the time that was lost, right? Like, and whenever they got sober, it was like they had to learn things all over again. You recognizing this stuff at such an early age, I mean, do you definitely feel that too? Do you feel like, you climbing back into the realm of being sober, like, did you recognize how much time you had lost? And
yeah, I think for me it was a little bit less of the time and a little bit more of the potential. Like I think the most soul crushing thing for me in my addiction was the fact that I knew I was a smart guy, I knew I was a capable person, but for the life of me I did not have the will to carry any of that out. And so then once I got sober, it felt like, for the first time, it felt like I could do anything with my life. And yeah, I mean, there was definitely, I could look back and go, well, I could have, spent 4 years in the Army, or I could have, completed high school like a regular student, gone to prom, done all of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, though, I wouldn't change anything about what got me to where I am. I think it's testimony that God gave me.
Absolutely.
Dude, that's awesome. Beautiful. I mean, it's kind of a harrowing story. Again, man, I'm blown away at like how well put together you are right now at 20 years old to be able to be able to say things like that. I mean,
bro, you're light years ahead of where I was at 19.
Yeah, 19,
like
20. I mean,
like light years ahead of where I was.
And
it's fucking insane.
I would even argue ahead of me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, bro, I'm super proud that you can come out on the other end and say what you just did, which is, I wouldn't have changed a thing to be right here. And you still have so much in front of you, so kudos to you. But
Thank you.
Rewinding the clock a little bit, can you like pinpoint, like, I know you said you had the example of addiction, but when you said you smoked weed for that first time, was it just like over right there, or was there like some traumatic stuff that happened? It seems like everything was sort of based in some bit of trauma.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think the first time that I smoked weed was maybe like a month after my dad died. My dad was kind of in and out of my life. My parents got divorced when I was 7. I kind of like watched how his addiction affected him. For a long time when I was a kid, I didn't exactly know what it was. He would be like pointing at an Xbox and going, that shouldn't be on, they're listening, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And just like abusive and whatnot.
Yeah.
But once once they got divorced, I saw him like maybe at most like 3-4 times a year. And then he had gotten remarried, and I started to go over there a little bit more frequently and trying to develop a relationship with him. And I wake up on December 23rd of 2017, and I remember my mother, my sister, and my brother were all sitting on the couch across from me. And my mother said to me, "Sean, there's been an accident. Your dad was in a car accident, and he didn't make it." And I just remember bawling.
Wow.
And then, and before that, actually, it's kind of a bit of a funny story, sort of. I hadn't spoken to him for like 9 months, because he had kidnapped me.
Whoa.
Well, not like in the traditional sense. He wouldn't take me home. He got like real mad. I guess he had woke up from coming down or something like that, and we were riding around in his car for a good few hours until I was able to get my mom to call the police, and he went and dropped me off. And I told him when he dropped me off, I hated him, never wanted to see him again, and he was a deadbeat, all this kind of stuff. And so I didn't speak to him for 9 months, and he texted me exactly a week before he died, and apologized for everything, and told me that he loved me, and we made plans to see each other. And about a week later is when I found out, and a few days after that, I saw him in the casket. And so
Bro.
about a month after that was the first time I smoked weed. And it was certainly, I remember the thought in my head being, I'm going to keep doing this. I like the way that this feels. And I like the people who do this. I want to hang out with those kids. And
So covering it up, probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
drowning it out for sure.
Not allowing yourself to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a common theme too that we've heard. I mean, from Creechy, Ali, these two, is just not allowing yourself to feel, and it's just easier to cover it up with whatever. And it seemed like yours went off the rail pretty fast.
Yeah, my dad, I've spoke a little bit about this, I believe. He was in and out of my life as well, and my dad was a heroin addict, and a cocaine addict, crack, and he was in and out of my life for majority of it. Although there were some pockets where he'd get some brief sobriety, and I would 50-50, between him and my mom. But I don't know, for some reason there was just like a disconnect with my relationship with him, and I didn't really want to be there. And he passed away when I was 11 years old in 2001, and I didn't even go to his funeral. And I tried to downplay that effect and the feeling it had on me for the longest, because I was like, well, he wasn't there, so it wasn't a big deal, until I actually got sober and I got to look back on it and see like actually how pivotal it was in my life and the impact it had on it. Because some of the things I've experienced and had to deal with, I didn't get that from a father. And as great as my mom was at playing both roles, you can only get certain things from a father.
Yeah.
for sure.
So
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, that was the same with my dad. My dad lost his arm in a refinery accident. I don't think I've ever said this here. And he had already drank, but when he lost his arm in a refinery accident, it was like 2 weeks before I was born. So the medication that they put him on for the pain, it started an addiction for him. And then whenever he got a settlement, cocaine, fucking like, he was just supplying everybody around him. I'm sure he was very depressed too, from losing his arm. So I'm sure he was buying friends and shit like that, and just like, I got all this money, come on, I'll supply. And he ended up dying from cirrhosis of the liver. From like, he had went so long doing all the drugs and drinking, and then he got sober for a while, and then he went through a divorce with my stepmom. I shouldn't even call her a stepmom. But he got a divorce from her, and then he started drinking again, and they said that his cirrhosis of the liver was always there, but he had stopped at the right time. But when he started again, it just flared up, and he died at 54.
Whew.
But yeah,
Man.
so we all lost our dads. It was crazy. But I like what you said. There's only some, like my mom was phenomenal, but there's some things that a dad has to teach a son.
yeah.
And there's like, I remember I used to watch like other kids. Like I was good in sports, but I would have been so much better if I would have had a dad work with me,
Yeah, I think it's
help me, teach me, you know.
I think it can extend to daughters too, though, man. I think there's just certain things that a father has to provide, right? That
Yeah.
a whole nother that Mars and Venus thing, you know, women, it's real, and there's a perspective that a man can bring to a young woman or a young man
Yeah.
that it can't be really replicated, you know. So sorry to all of you guys, man. I kind of feel like a dick, but saying I have a great dad. He's still here. Thanks, pops. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Yeah. Fuck you, motherfucker.
Day after Father's Day? How dare you?
Yes,
It was
what's
a
up?
great day, man. Dad was like chilling, and you know,
Well,
all
good
that.
for you.
Yeah, thanks, man. But so 16 months recovered now. You know, on a road of it seemed to be what you would consider to be 6-7 years in active addiction. You know, what does it look like now?
Real quick, what was the exact moment that you knew you wanted to change your life? I know you spoke about trying to this potential that you had.
Was it your mom saying she wanted to?
Yeah, that was the catalyst for sure.
That was a catalyst.
Yeah, something about the way that she said it. Like
Yeah.
I it had been a long time since I saw my mother smile, like
Yeah.
and be happy, and like she had moved to Houston to get away from my brother who was still in use, and from me as well. And you know, I had watched how my brother affected her, but then when I moved to Houston, it was just me and her, and so I realized when she said that the last 8 months that I was out there, it was my doing that had brought her to that point. And like just watching her, you know, she'd moved to Houston to start a life over, and like, you know, she was originally from Houston. She was going home, and I brought it to her. And you know, she'd go to work every day. She'd come back and she'd sit in this apartment that she hated, and she had to give her dog away because she just couldn't take it. And yeah, I'll just never forget that look on her face.
That's powerful.
And I remember maybe it was that day or the next day or somewhere around that time right before I went into treatment. It was the first time in my life, like when I had been put in other institutions, there was always that reservation of like, okay, well, I'm going to smoke weed, or I'll take a little bit of acid, or I'll do, you know, whatever.
Right.
But for the first time in my life, I was like, okay, I never want to touch alcohol, weed, no mind altering substance in any shape or form ever again. But I know that I will unless I get help. And that was, as like the book talks about, I think that was my moment of psychic change, of, you know, having that gift of desperation and wanting to change whatever it was that was suggested of me to change so that I could be a good person again. Because that's what I felt like I lost. I felt like I lost that person. When I got sober, my mom said that it was like Sean, the Sean that she grew or she, you know, raised and loved, disappeared and was replaced by this monster for 7 years. And she told me that she finally felt like she had her son back.
Yeah.
It was a very powerful moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my mom told me that plenty of times. People told me this plenty of times. People left plenty of times, and there was never that wasn't sufficient for me to stop. I wanted to, but I couldn't let go of the drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And I had to keep pushing through bottoms. And I know we hear sometimes in meetings, this is just my take, I don't know if you agree on it, but I know we hear in meetings a lot, like, you know, you got to reach that bottom or you got to hit that bottom. And obviously everyone's looks different, but I don't necessarily think you have to go as far as what me and you did.
Yeah.
You can stop now before you get to where we were at.
I think it's a very powerful thing at you being the age that you are, that you did not, that you recognize that so early, because I mean, bro, it sounds to me like that could have gone off the rails pretty hard and for a long time, but something for you clicked insanely early. And I hope if we have young viewers out there watching, look, I think you might be as big of a role model in this thing than anybody I've ever seen. No offense to you guys, no disrespect to either one of you.
We all got a voice, and we all got
Yeah,
this is our platform.
but I mean, bro, you are light years. It seems that you are light years ahead of the curve with that, and that you got it really figured out super early. So
Yeah, I agree with what you said of I don't think that. I think that if you don't choose your bottom will choose you.
Yeah.
And I don't, because I've been asked that question before of what do I think is the reason that I was able to like have that realization so early, and I really don't know. I mean, I think I can look back and see what I see when I look back. What I see is how God moved, and I think that it was nothing short of just God acting in my life. Like when I went into treatment, I had like not ever had a relationship with any kind of higher power or anything like that. And somebody suggested to me that I pray every night when I go to sleep, and I prayed that night, and I just thank God for the fact that I was safe, and that I was going to be getting help, that things could change, that I had a chance. And I remember like something switched. It was like suddenly life wasn't happening to me, but God was doing things for me. I came to believe in step 2. And a few days after that, I was talking with a therapist in treatment, and she was telling me to talk about my dad. And I remember sitting there, and there's an empty chair to the right of her, and I get these chill bumps, and I look over and I see my dad, and he's sitting there, and I can see him.
Wow.
And he's looking at me, and I hear this thought come in my head that was not my own, and it was, "I love you, son. It's going to be okay."
Wow.
Like those things were not, I think that was just simply God.
Yeah.
100%.
So I don't think that there's any way to explain it.
Yeah. No, nor should you have to either, man. You know what I mean? I mean, we sit in here and we talk like kind of two addicts and a moron sometimes, man. It's like, 30s, 40s. And I mean, it's hard for me to keep remembering. I mean, I look at your face and you're a really young guy, I can tell, but it's like, dude, yeah. I mean, you carry yourself like a fully formed grown ass man. And it's insane. It really is.
Yeah. That's why I said, hey,
I
found our next
you
guest.
said it immediately. And when honestly, not knowing anything about you, you said your age, and I was like, done. Get him in here. Let's do this. I want this kid in here. That's insane. So, I'm glad that you interrupted me going in. No, that was great. That was great. It needed to happen. But I want to now I want to talk about your recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So, you shared a story in recovery, with the therapist, but what did that look like for you in the early stages of it?
It's different. It's a weird thing. Like I look around like at, the guys in recovery that are older, and they've got, I might have a lot of wisdom for a 20-year-old, but I don't have a lot of life experience that goes with that.
Sure.
So like I went to the doctor for the first time the other day, like by myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was a task for me.
Yeah.
And so like I'm growing up in this way of life, and like that's can be hard sometimes. It can be stressful sometimes. But it's also a beautiful thing. I work like downtown. I work next to a college campus, and like I look around and I'm like, these kids are going to college and drinking it away.
Yeah.
And I get to, know some important things about life now, and I get to make all of this on my own. And that's kind of what the process has looked like. I've spent time, managing sober livings. I work in treatment now. I worked in a treatment center as well when I first got, after like 4 months of being sober. And yeah, I think that one thing I've always wanted to do, and another reason that my addiction was soul crushing, is I've always wanted to help people, and specifically people, in the way of like advisory, using my voice. I feel like I understand the way that people work pretty well, and I've got a lot of wisdom as far as how life works and what's important in life. And when I got sober, I was like, I can help people who understand how my life played out, because I can look at another drug addict and not know them, but I know what their story can look like.
Right.
And so I'm unique, like the book says, uniquely qualified to be of help. And that's what I'm working towards. Is what I want to do with my life. It's who I want to be.
So this is just a curiosity of mine. You being the age that you are in recovery, and you're working in recovery, and this is primarily an older guy thing, where they're figuring out their way into recovery. And do you kind of get like bucked against because of your age? Kind of like discriminated against, I guess.
I've had a few experiences.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
Now I work in a place that has 17 to 27-year-old men.
Still, man, 27 is quite a bit older than you.
Yeah.
That's a whole like quarter of a life, that they have over you. So
yeah, when I worked in that first treatment center, I remember there was a guy in there, and I came to work. It was like my third day in, and his first and only 2 questions for like a week were, "How old are you and how much time do you have?" And then he was just an asshole.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But what I have found is once I start speaking, and they see the way that I carry myself, and once I start speaking and they can tell I know what I'm talking about, their respect is gained pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. I could tell when we first started talking in there, I was like, wow, he speaks really fucking well.
Yeah.
For being so young.
Well, even before you spoke, just the way you carried yourself,
carried
like kind of
yourself.
just walked into the room.
Yeah.
It was I was, whoa. And, and you said something real mature, which was like, we get in here and we wing it like every time. So you guys know there's not really a script of what we're doing here. Like, and so I was like, "You nervous?" This was when you were still out. I was like, "You nervous?" He's like, "Yeah, a little bit."
Yeah.
and then you kind of said, "Well, if I wasn't, I don't know that I think I'd be worried if I wasn't nervous."
Yeah.
Like, or have a little bit of the butterflies or whatever. So
no, it's when I came in and I seen you, I was like, oh wow, he carries himself really well. Like, if this was a kid that came over, I don't mean to call you a kid.
No, y'all are all good.
Yeah.
If this was a dude that came over to see your daughter, you'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Like, well,
yeah, dude.
I mean, like,
I'll take
Here's
that.
the keys. Here's the keys. Take the minivan.
she's still leaving a virgin, motherfucker.
Yeah.
She's coming home a virgin too. But it would be like good pick.
Yeah,
not bad.
Yeah.
Not
So
bad at all.
for what it's worth,
That's
as
about
a
the best
guy with
compliment I could give you.
guys with daughters, that's about as good as it gets, bro.
Yeah.
So in treatment now you're working with people in treatment.
Sorry.
I mean, how long have you been working?
Working in treatment?
Yeah. That's what you do for a living, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since I was 4 months sober, so a little over a year, I guess.
About a year.
Whoa.
Awesome.
And does it normally happen that fast for I mean, I know you're working in sober livings and
So, I mean, I think he may have did something similar as me, and this is something I recommend to all people. Immerse yourself. Immerse yourself. Really, if you really want this, you go all in.
yeah.
Now, I'm not saying be a house manager. Everyone, you got to define your own success. You got to, have your own vision of what you want. But there's room for everybody in recovery, and you don't need a title to do anything necessarily. I mean, sure, titles play, their roles, but like, at the end of the day, it's about a community, and then having unity within that community. And I preach this all the time. I think I tell people all the time, like in my sober house, I say I might be the house manager, but we are all leaders. We all can be leaders. So, that's what I'm about. I think, like he said, my big thing is helping people find their voice, because we all have a voice, we all have a story, and I think they all matter. And it's about, really at the end of the day, it's about reaching one person. Anything more than that is awesome. But one person is amazing, because like I said, that one multiplies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing I can tell just by listening to what you're saying is, like you said, like whenever you start speaking, it gains respect because people understand they. Like I can tell by just the way that you talk, you understand the steps, you understand the book. You can probably tell me which page to go to something, right?
Yeah.
And that's so powerful. That's what my sponsor, he can tell. He'll tell me all the time. You need to go read page 96, 97, or you need to go read this page, and it's like knowing who he is. I'm like, fuck, he has so much more knowledge in this than I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I will go do what he tells me to do. So I can tell, like, the way that you say certain stuff, like people in recovery and that go to the rooms and that go through the steps and things, like there's certain words that you say.
Just little
that,
key
like,
phrases.
Yeah, little
Yeah.
key phrases. And I know that you're about it
Mm-hmm.
whenever you say that. So, yeah, I could definitely see where you gain the respect just by speaking, just by letting someone know, like, I may not be your age and I may not have done this for 20 years, but one thing that I do understand is recovery. And one thing I do understand is the steps. And one thing I do understand is how to get sober and how to stay sober.
Yeah.
And I think that's so powerful rather than I can tell you all the ways how to get fucked up, but I couldn't ever tell you how to get sober. I couldn't ever tell you how to recover. I couldn't ever tell you what that looked like. So for someone to be able to tell me, like, this is what it looks like and this is how you do it, I'm down.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you get to that spot. So, yeah, I can definitely see that.
So you being, I keep going back to this, but you being so young, dude, like, I mean, what are your long-term goals?
Great question.
I'm still kind of working them out. I think when I first got sober, there was that, we talk about like the pink cloud that came out of treatment. I was like, well, I can do fucking anything.
Yeah.
And then time went on and life got real, and I was like, it's going to take some time to do just anything.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to help people. I would like to go to school and get a degree, likely in psychology, clinical. But I also kind of would like to know a little bit more about business. I think when you work in the treatment industry, that you kind of go one of two ways. It's either the business, the admissions, the networking, all that, or it's working directly with the clients or being the head of the clinical division for the clients. I would like to own a treatment center one day. There's a lot of things I would like to do, but I think just the main thing is that I just want to use my voice.
Okay.
I'd love. Honestly, it's always been something close that I keep close to my chest. But I'd love to have a podcast one day. Be able to use my voice in that way.
Bro.
So that's why I was nervous when I came in here. I was like, God might be working some things out.
Yeah.
Or at least that's the feeling.
Well, you were asking a lot of questions, just about production and like, and I was really feeling that. And you did say, you were like, man, I've always wanted to be on one. I've always wanted to do one. And then you started asking real specific questions. I mean, you can see, it takes quite a bit, but I can tell you right now, you got something that people want to hear.
Yeah.
And people will listen to you. I'm listening to you, and I'm not an addict. I've never been in recovery, and I can already tell that I would probably take your advice on a lot of different things, dude. So I
doing something right then, I guess.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you really are. So when we talked about your long-term goals, how about short-term? Like, that might be a little bit of an easier question to answer, but
yeah. I finally moved after all this time of being sober. I finally moved out of sober living, moved into a house with some roommates, and that's been a beautiful experience. It's a hard thing when you work in the treatment industry and then you come home to a managerial role with another group of guys that are also in recovery.
Yeah.
So like during the day, somebody's asking me questions about step 2 or step 3 or how do I deal with this relationship that's falling apart or whatever. And then I come home and it's the same thing. And so it makes it harder for me to go, sometimes I would not want to go to the meeting that I needed to go to. And so it's been I feel like I can flap my wings now that I've moved out, and it's a big step for me. Yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm 20 and I'm growing up in this recovery scene and living this way of life. And so I'm trying to nail down some of the things that I think will benefit me in the future. I'm terrible with my money.
Yeah.
So learning how to do those kinds of things, and how to take a car to a mechanic and have them change my alternator or like whatever.
Yeah.
Go see a doctor.
Go see a doctor.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Those are big things that you check off though whenever you get them done. Like they may be small things to some people, but like those are things like I have an imaginary chalkboard that I check shit off in my mind whenever I'm able to do something that I didn't think that I would be able to do. So like when you go to the doctor, fucking check that shit off.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, there's another one. Bam, did it. Yep. And then just go to the next one.
Well, and as far as being bad with your money, you're looking at a guy who has a 2 addicts and a moron gold pendant wrapped around his neck, and Mike has a Stew Boy emblem with fucking diamonds in it. So we're not exactly the models for like managing money the best, So
hey, this isn't a Dave Ramsey podcast, all right? We're here for recovery, okay? Keep that on.
So my background, I'm a normie, right? Like I drink on occasion. I don't do any drugs, but I do drink on occasion. So I'm curious to know, like, hanging out, just like going out and having a good time as a 20-year-old person, like
in Austin, Texas.
Texas. I mean, do you hang out with normies?
On occasion. I mean, I had some experiences where I had a friend, the person that told me to come to Austin for recovery was a guy that I used to sell drugs to back in Mississippi who had came and gotten sober. And when I came out here, he had kind of came up with the idea that he was a normie and that he wasn't a drug addict and whatever. So he had kind of like relapsed. But he was just drinking at the time, and I went to go hang out with him, and there was just a bunch of college-aged normal people, and we went to 6th Street, and I was like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
This is not fun at all.
Yeah.
Y'all are talking about things that I don't care about. The conversation's not going anywhere. I didn't enjoy it, but not that, that's really drunk college kid normal people.
Yeah.
I just happen to be so immersed in the recovery community that I should, but I don't meet as many normal people out here in Texas as much as I would like.
Yeah. Well, I can only imagine that part being insane. But I'm just putting myself in your shoes, right? Like, you're obviously a different person. But, I've told this story a couple times, but and I'll tell the story of a couple weeks ago. But stepson, he graduated from high school, and, my girl is Hispanic. Her family is Hispanic. They're drinkers. My family is drinkers. And I invite the crew over, to come over. Thanks for coming, JV.
Yeah, dude, I went there before my meeting, dude.
I know, dude.
I showed up late, but I showed up.
And there's a fucking keg in my living room, and we're all drinking. And they've told me before, it's like their issue was not drinking. It's heroin and meth, was the, they're like, nobody's shooting up heroin in here. Yeah. So the triggers weren't there. They were okay. Wrong.
I still will I'll do whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But like I said, I'm not going to risk it over a fucking solo cup.
Yeah. Right. So, but we've gone on retreats before, or not retreats, but like team builders at Dave and Buster's. Right. And at that one, I fight really hard not to drink in front of them out of like respect, do you have any experiences with maybe your normal friends where it gets a little awkward or strange, where they're like, where you feel it coming off of them?
Yeah, I've had a couple on both sides, and what I mean by that is I've rolled a blunt for a friend since I've been sober. Okay. Which I thought was wild that he asked. He was like, "Hey man, can you roll me a blunt?" I was like, "I guess."
Yeah, muscle memory takes right over.
He enjoyed it, I guess.
Real tight.
And I've also had my sister came out here for her birthday couple weeks ago, and she was like, I'm going to bring my friends. Is it okay that I drink? Or what me and my friends drink? Because it was my brother also. I got my brother out here. My brother's sober as well.
Nice.
And so we went over there, and they were like, can we drink in front of you guys? And I was like, we were both like, yeah, it's fine. Like there's no desire 98% of the time. Like it doesn't sound fun. The book says that we recoil from it like a hot flame. Like the thought of me like doing cocaine or even having a sip of beer is like just doesn't sound appealing anymore. There are times where life is getting a little hard, and like that's probably when I should call my sponsor when I have that thought, and it's so far it's been when I do, but majority of the time, no.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of those times or not really?
No, I can think
Not
maybe
so much
only like
now?
3 since I've been sober.
Was it more in the beginning rather than now? Or was it just when hard times came up, it didn't matter when it was?
Yeah. I mean, I was on that pink cloud for a while, dude.
Yeah.
And
I was too.
for the first like maybe 4 months, it just didn't even come up at all. I was so like involved in my sober living and being around the treatment center I went to and all the meetings and doing everything. Life was moving. I was so happy.
Yeah.
And then life kind of slowed down a little bit. I got a little bit more stressed out about things at work and a relationship and whatnot. And it would come up a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. I mean, it's just kind of when things get a little tough. And it's never like, for me so far at least, it's never been like, oh, I might leave and go do it. It's been like that. I don't like the fact that sounds like a good idea right now.
It came up and it's like, what the fuck?
It's like, why am I thinking about that? Like my next thought is always no.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? I wouldn't burn everything I built up down. But
I was doing some step work with, I've had like 11 sponsors.
Yeah.
But I was doing
course
step
you
work
have.
with like my third one. And we finished doing step work, and I walked out of his apartment. I gave him a hug, fist stabbed him, gave him a hug, turned around and walked off. And then the voice in my head said, man, you did really good today. Let's go get high and celebrate. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, you did real good today, Stu. Let's go get high.
Yeah.
And I almost turned around and went back in there and just sat there for a minute.
Yeah.
But I was like, the thing like what you were saying about your mom, when your mom told you that, I use all those things like losing my daughter or this or that, all those things that I don't want to happen is what I think about whenever that comes up. And there's no way I'm going to go do it. Right. So like, there's no way that, like for you, there's no way that you want to ever see your mom say that to you ever again. Like if that thought ever comes up, it's like, all right, do I want to hear my mom say this to me again? Right. Fuck no, never. So how's your relationship with mom now?
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah, she once I got sober and spent some time and built some trust back up, she's like doing things that like I have never seen her do. Like she's like got a friend that she goes to like the club with. Like my mom's like 53. It's like, let's go. It's like, what are you doing? But her friend that she goes with is in recovery.
Yeah.
It's a childhood friend that she was in addiction for like 25 years. We have the same sober date, the same amount of time. She got sober at the same time, came back in my mom's life. So they're about to move to Austin. They live together now. They're enjoying things. My mom's happy. It's a beautiful thing. She now for the when I went to my sister's birthday out here, it was the first time in I don't even know how many years that my brother and I had both been sober and the entire family was together. And like being able to watch how that impacted my mom was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a wild thing. It's something I did not seeing my mom heal is something I didn't think I would ever see.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Or just enjoy. You get a front row seat to it, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
just to see her smile.
and so you said your brother is in recovery. You said your mom was in addiction?
My mom's friend.
Oh, okay. So your mom never was.
No, she's not she definitely used drugs for a time, but
Right.
she's not.
But
a drug
more a normie. Like, yeah. So, okay. So, was it you that sparked the soberness
Yeah.
between you and your brother and all of that, or what? Yeah.
Yeah, my brother had been to maybe 3 or 4 treatment centers.
How old is he, by the way?
He's 32.
Okay.
3 or 4, but never. He'd get out, get high pretty quickly.
Yeah.
He was in addiction for like 13 years. He had been living in North Carolina, and his wife and him had I guess gone through. He had relapsed. He had got high out there again, and he came back to Mississippi. He was living in a trailer, just getting high every day. Didn't have really anything but the money that he was getting. I don't even know honestly where he was getting it from, but he was surviving. And I went on a mission trip to the Dominican Republic, and so I left from Mississippi. So I flew to Mississippi, left for the Dominican, was out there 10 days, came back to Mississippi to fly back to Austin. And I stayed for another like 2-3 days after I got back from the Dominican. And I went to go see my sister, and I was about to go see my dad's graveside, which is where my brother was at that in that little town.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, "You should go stop and see your brother. This is where he is, or whatever." So I drove over there. I stopped and I talked to him I was with him for maybe like 3 hours before he was starting to get a little loopy. People were watching and whatnot. But I took him with me to my father's graveside, and I made amends to my dad in front of my brother, and then made amends to my brother. And when it was the first time in my life I had ever seen my brother cry, because I was just sharing with him what had happened. And I didn't expect that he would want to get sober at that point, but I hoped that I had planted a seed of him being able to see me. Because the last time we had saw each other at that point was when we were getting high together.
Yeah.
My first time doing meth. And so I come back and I, just go back to life. And I remember this feeling of like, I felt like my brother was going to die. I don't know what it was. I was scared. I'd prayed for my brother for a long time since I've been sober. Like every night I prayed for my brother. And I prayed hard, and I finally got to this point where I realized I had been trying to manipulate God in my prayer of what I thought I wanted my brother to get sober to look like. And with that feeling of thinking he was going to die, I just went to God and I was like, "You got it. Whatever happens. You're in control." And the next day I get a call that he's been arrested. And so he sits in jail for 2 months. And while he's in jail, he's calling me. And I remember he told me, he said, "I'm sorry that I wasn't present for you when you came to see me, but just know that I saw you." He said, "I don't just want to go to treatment. I don't just want to get sober. I want whatever you have." And it gave me chills at that point.
Hell yeah.
Almost got me.
And he was talking about God and all these kinds of things. And so I put together some letters from some people and from myself to bring to the judge in efforts of getting him out, got him out, and got him fully scholarshiped into the same treatment center that I went to get sober. And he's currently in sober living.
That's beautiful, bro.
Whoa, dude.
Man, I tell you what, me and my brother, ever since I've gotten sober, we have the greatest relationship that I have with anybody. And he's older than me. And there was a time, like, he's been a cop for 27 years, something like that. And I used to go in his bathroom and smoke meth when I stayed there. Like, I'd go in his bathroom and smoke meth in his bathroom. And he's a cop.
Yeah.
And there was a few times where he tried to help me, and I just wasn't ready. Like, I'd go and stay there for a few days and then fucking, off. I'm good. I'm going to go back home. And last year, for his 50th birthday, I was able to go on a trip with him. And I'd never been on a trip with him before. It was a cruise. And me and my girlfriend were the only two people sober. Everybody else was getting fucked up. And it was one of the best vacations I've ever had. And this weekend, we're going to New Orleans for his fiance's birthday. And I'll be completely sober. And I was telling my girlfriend, I said, these are things that we're able to do sober, is have those relationships that we've never had before. Like the relationships, like I took for granted. Like me and my brother talk about it sometimes. Like it's crazy that we've went so long without the relationship that we have, but there's a reason that God put us in each other's life at the perfect time for us to have the relationship we have now. So yeah, man, that's amazing. Especially like your brother's older than you, and you're like the younger brother taking the lead. Yeah, that's amazing, and that's amazing that he, you almost got me whenever you said, he's seen you. He wasn't present, but he's seen you. That was a big deal for him to do that. You know, imagine how much courage it took to tell you that. You know.
Yeah, I bawled my eyes out when he said
Yeah.
it.
I bet.
I bet.
And how long has he been recovered?
He got out of treatment maybe 2 months ago now.
Okay.
Or maybe not quite, right around 2 months. So
Y'all go to meetings and stuff together?
yeah, we have.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing because we're like, I want to be his brother more than I want to be like, I don't want to be his sponsor.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Like he'll call me for advice every now and then, but we try to just hang out, like work on my car and work on his car and you know, just do brotherly things. But
That's good.
you know, if I see him in a meeting, of course I'm going to go talk to my brother, but
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's really awesome. So, you're a sponsor.
I am a sponsor.
How many people do you sponsor?
Right now I have 7.
Holy
Dang.
shit.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so 2 of them are in treatment currently.
Sponsees are sponsees,
Well,
man. Like,
So I had them before they went into treatment. Actually, I'm sorry. No, one of them just got into treatment. And then he just called me today and asked me to sponsor him. And then the other one just went back into treatment. So I don't really have to go see them very much. I'm just
Right.
waiting on them to get out. And then then they're 4 or 5.
what's that
I'm sorry.
like?
3 of them are in treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that like? What is being a sponsor like?
The first sponsee I ever got and still have is like 53, and I was
Whoa.
19 when he asked me.
Wow.
And so I was like, so me?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Well, yeah, I don't blame him. To be honest with you, I don't blame him one bit. Like I would point you out hearing some of the stuff that's coming out of your mouth, and I'd probably be like, yeah, that one.
What
that
I've seen, and I'm not saying it's a prerequisite, but what I found is that some of the best sponsor and sponsee relationships have been people from the exact opposites, from different worlds, from different. I don't know why it works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, but
It's probably yin and yang thing. You know that
Yeah,
that
sure.
yin and yang thing. That's real. Like I would imagine that going to a sponsor, you would want something completely different than what your viewpoint would be, to kind of see it from a different, almost like looking at it from above, right? You guys are going to be able to speak way better about that than me, but I'm just
It's
spitballing.
kind of it's dependent. I mean, I've seen people who, they choose their sponsor because they're comfortable, or they, he's around my age or a little bit older, and he seems to be taking the program seriously. He was an alcoholic and a cokehead. Well, I was an alcoholic and cokehead, so I want to go with him.
Yeah.
And it can work. It's very dependent. I mean, for me, I was in treatment, and a guy walked up to me and was like, "You need a sponsor?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And that was it. He's been my sponsor since.
Yeah.
I think it can work regardless, as long as that the sponsor's doing what he should be doing and is available. Because as a sponsor, I don't necessarily have to teach very much. I just point, when a problem comes up, all right, well, what does the book say? I'm just a facilitator.
Right.
And so lost my train of thought. But
And
yeah,
you're available.
Yeah, when as long as the sponsor's available and as long as the sponsee is doing the work,
Right.
and then it flourishes.
Okay.
that's what it is.
Well,
So how's that feel whenever someone comes up and says, "Hey, you want to be my sponsor?" How's that feel, like knowing where you've came? Like 2 years ago, people wouldn't have asked you that, obviously.
Yeah.
2 years ago, you would have never thought, like, I'm going to be helping this person, or I'm going to help get my brother sober, or I'm going to make my mom happy again. So when people do that, whenever they can, how does that make you feel now?
Now, I mean, I got a call today by that guy that just went back into treatment and asked me to be a sponsor, and I didn't really think much of it.
Yeah,
It's kind of just like, all right, yeah, cool. I'll meet with you tomorrow night.
cool.
I mean, it's kind of like our responsibility.
Yeah, it's I don't believe in, personally, I don't believe in firing sponsees, because I don't feel like I hired them.
Right.
Right.
God gave them to me.
Come on, man.
Hey.
You know, the first. So when I got asked by that guy, my first sponsee, I got asked by 2 more people the next day, and I just remember like, I was like, whoa, like that was quick.
Yeah.
And I was also kind of told that usually when God gives you a couple sponsees, then you're probably about to struggle a little bit, and you're going to need to help them. And that was kind of the experience I had of like right when I got those sponsees, I really needed to be going to meet with those sponsees and being helpful and doing that service work because life got a little bit more tumultuous.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful thing. I mean, like I said, I love speaking and helping people with my voice. And so like when somebody gives me a call and they're just like, what do I do? That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
You know, to just be able to guide as best as I can.
Yeah.
So do you ever have people approach you outside of the program? I know you said you helped your brother, and you are a sponsor of people, but I know these guys have dealt with it. You know, we've dealt with it here on the podcast where people reach out for help, and they're in various places though. They're, you know,
Right.
Do people approach you for that? Like, you know, for advice on, I'm ready to get sober or I'm using now, and you know what I mean? They're outside of sobriety or the program, and did they ever approach you, or maybe even at a meeting, like they approach you and they're like, man, I used again.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, as far as like in a meeting, like that's a pretty common thing. You know, as beautiful as this conversation is, as beautiful as it is that all 3 of us are sober, the reality is that the odds are very against us. You know, and so in a meeting, it's a pretty common thing where you know, a friend of mine that I've been close to comes up and is like, hey man, I fucked up. You know, and it's like at that point, so let's get you some help. You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, I've definitely had friends that I used to get high with reach out to me and be like, how did you do it? You know, I had a friend that was, it's kind of sad. I wish that I could have helped him, but he comes from nothing. And I don't really have the resources to get him into treatment. But yeah, I've definitely had people reach out to me, people from Houston, like, what do you do? Like, why are you sober? I've watched how your life played out before this. What changed? And you know, the answer is always the same. I worked at 12 steps and I have a relationship with God. And, you know, I did get one dude into treatment when I went to the Dominican Republic. He wasn't from there, no.
Okay.
He was from Mississippi, but I went out there and he said, I'll take him for his word on it, that I walked up to like the top of this building that we were staying in, this little compound, and he was out there, and I just went to go talk to him. And I knew he was a meth head. It was pretty clear. And he said that he was contemplating suicide at that moment when I went to go talk to him. And I talked to him for a couple hours, and I ended up getting him into treatment. Brought him from Mississippi and got him in. So that was a cool experience. I wasn't expecting to be doing any recovery in the Dominican Republic, but
Were you there on a church retreat, or what were you there for?
yeah, I had a pastor / mentor that kind of took me in and guided me when I was young after my dad died. And during my addiction, I kind of like, it's one of those relationships where like he would regularly text me and check on me and let me know that he was praying for me like at least once a month, and I just didn't respond.
Sure.
But when I got sober, I responded and kind of made amends to him and rekindled that relationship. And he was like, "Yeah, I'd love for you to come out here and do some Lord's work."
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, brother, you are a genuine tool for that. I can tell you that right now. I think if you said you're not that active on social media, and I told you that you should be. I was like, I mean, that's another platform.
Yeah.
And having the distinction of being on Two Addicts and a Moron doesn't get any bigger than that.
We may have just kickstarted off something beautiful.
Yeah. You know, but look, man, I would love it if you got on social media and we could shout you out in every way possible, because I think you would be a great resource, you know, for this thing that we're that we're doing. You know, we're all rowing in the same boat together here. So, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
This was
awesome.
This was incredible. Like I'm really. What are you laughing at? What are you laughing?
Because I'm realizing like I'm just a small. I'm not trying to compare myself to him.
Right.
But his knowledge compared to some of my knowledge, I'm a 44-year-old 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Really. Like that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And
like, you know, like when Joe Rogan says like Elon Musk comes on and he realizes he's not as smart as he thought he was.
Yeah.
Like sitting next to him and hearing how, dude, like really well spoken you are. And like some of the stuff, like when you said that you were manipulating God, like that's not something a 20-year-old says.
Yeah. You're like a 20-year-old, 75-year-old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
that's not something.
I mean, the wisdom and shit that just comes out of you at the age that you are is nothing short of remarkable, man. And I really, with everything that I'm telling you right now, go get yourself a fucking microphone and get yourself a fucking camera and sit in front of it. And whenever you want to have two addicts and a moron on as your guest,
100%.
we'll come running, dude. Like whatever we're dealing with and whatever we have, we'll be there. And now you're part of our world. Yeah. You're on the wall, baby. You're on the wall. It's permanent. It's permanent now.
You know, something else that's awesome is at your age, how close to God you are. Like that's something I didn't get a good relationship with God until I got in recovery. And I've said that before.
Well, him neither.
But he just did it way sooner. Way fucking sooner.
That's
you know,
that's if there's and I say this to the guys in treatment that I talk to, and anybody that's trying to get sober or not. The best piece of advice that I could give any drug addict or any alcoholic or any person in general is to cultivate a relationship with God. Because like it's been 16 months, but it's not been an easy 16 months.
Sure.
You know, but no matter what happens, I have something that takes the weight off of my shoulders. Like that was that feeling that I got in treatment, was that peace and freedom and joy that I had not felt since I was a child. Was I had taken the weight of the world and put it on my shoulders. And when I went to God, I said, "Can you take this?" And he put it in the palm of his hand, and I felt lighter. And like, no matter what happens, as long as I have continued to go to God and talk to God and be honest with God and honest with myself, I'm able to feel peace in situations that I would have never felt peaceful in before. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Well, these two have said it before. I mean, we started this podcast and they've been so vulnerable in their journey. And the reason why, I think the main reason why was they're like, you don't have to do what we did. Like, right? You can get in front of this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's the fucking guy right there.
The blueprint.
That is the proof, right? Yeah. Right here, man. You are every bit of proof of what these two guys said that we started this thing to do. And I couldn't be more stoked to have you on, man. This was
Thank you so
awesome.
Much.
And you are welcome back anytime. And you have a home here. You want to sit behind the camera, learn how to do all that shit back here. We're happy to help you out. JV will help you out with whatever. Yeah. When I say
he helped Destiny with her homework last night. He stayed here and did homework with her. She got more homework, by the way.
When I say we're going to help you out with anything, that has anything to do with production, I would say we'd help you out, but we're not. It'd be JV. It'd just be that guy sitting back there with you. But anyways,
Jay Klein can teach you how to do. What do you do? The FaceTime shit?
Oh, stories and just social media stuff.
He's really good at that.
Yeah, I mean that part we can all walk you through. Yeah. Being a louder mouthpiece. I mean, we can get a few more curse words out of you and stuff. I think we could add a little bit more personality into you. But as far you need the world is your oyster, dude. And
it's crazy. I was my first time I went to rehab. I was 19 years old, and I'll never forget this. This guy, he was in his 50s, probably in out of homelessness. Been, I don't know where he's at now. This was back in 2010. He said to me, because I would share very well in the process groups.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got, and the guy came up to me. But here's the thing: anytime I went to treatment, I got high immediately after I left. So, you know, I could talk really good, couldn't follow through.
Walking it was a.
But the guy, he said to me, he said, "You know, Jacob, if you get this thing now, you can have the world by the balls." That's what he said.
Yeah.
You can have the world by the balls.
Yeah.
I said, "You're right. You're right." And I just, and like you said, I don't dwell on that because wow, what would life look like if I had got? I think what it comes down to is this: it ain't never too late to start or stop, and it ain't never too early to quit.
That's right.
Right,
Yeah.
bro.
In a life in recovery, anything is possible.
Yeah, and fine story of that today. So, with that, I think we got episode 17. 17 in the books, and so
Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, brother.
thank you so much for coming in, man. And you know, to our world, like, subscribe, notification bells, all
Comment.
of the,
We want to engage with you.
Comment. Find this guy on your Instagram. yeah, guys.
He has a girlfriend.
Yeah, I'm taking it.
He has a girlfriend. Whoa.
Hey.
They have a great relationship. Chill out.
Yeah.
They're gonna be the hottest recovery couple on the planet, dude. What?
She in recovery too?
She is.
Oh,
yeah.
so I didn't mean to
Hey.
put up,
Yeah.
but- okay.
Nice. Well,
Nice.
Do you know your Instagram handle or anything? How do people find you?
I don't. I have Facebook.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, no, I'll have to give it to you guys.
Yeah.
show.
We'll put it
so
on there. We'll get them plugged in.
Sean Fairchild, figure it the fuck out on your social medias and stuff. Plug that shit in. Find this guy. I promise you,
You're
want
gonna
to
be
know
seeing a
him.
lot more of him. I guarantee
You
it.
need to. You will be seeing more of this kid, guy, man.
Man.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
recovery.
yeah.
There you go.
Well, from our world, 2 addicts and a moron. Over and out.
That was awesome, buddy.
Sick.
Awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I can tell you.